going to say how excited I am that Shawn from Capture the Movement is here. And Black Lick, who is, obviously been holding it down these calls, is going to moderate this conversation. This is an exciting one because I feel like there's so many great parallels between what Shawn has been doing and what you all have been doing with your programming, and just like everybody really trying to connect the dots between what's happening, within their communities and what's actually happening with the protests and the news, all that. But I'm going to hand it over to you guys. And again, thank you so much, both of you guys, for taking the time.
Oh, yes. I'm looking forward to this. Shawn is super dope, and I'm not going to be very much in the way of what she can share with us, as well as what the takeaway can be on this. But I am really excited for people to hear her story and how she was able to create a movement within her community that I believe universally touches on the aspects of really looking at your resources and recognizing that there are pieces that will come together naturally if you just take that first step. So, Shawn, thank you, as Jess said, for being here. I would love if you could at least at first just give the group here a quick rundown on what Capture the Movement is.
Okay, cool. Hello, everyone. Thank you, Jessica and Black, just for inviting me. Just going to give you a little bit about myself. I'm a documentary filmmaker. I'm a visual artist. I've worked in the film television industry for 25 years. And I'm an activist, been on the ground, stumping in Black Lives Matter since June. I was out of work for 6 months. So I would say the movement really kind of saved me because gave me more purpose, definitely, and acknowledgement with others. Basically, as you know, probably the movement is really, the communication of the movement is really through Instagram. And there are quite a bit of Black photographers as well as other photographers, videographers covering the movement. As you know, we can't depend on mainstream news to cover what we're doing and to get the right aspect out there. So I saw these powerful images on Instagram, just this like 2-inch screen. And it was my interest in showing the movement visually in person to create a photo exhibit in large format where people could see images and be surrounded by them and feel the power of the movement if you necessarily weren't able to be in the movement, maybe physically, you wanted to support it, didn't know how. So one thing I learned, I was talking about Black Liquid, is just, one thing I learned is like, do not wait on someone to do something for you. And I think you all know that being in your industries. And this is a prime time on, if you want to do something, you got to do it and put it out there. So one of the apps on Instagram is Justice for George NYC. It's kind of the hub of where you get your information on protests and activists, vigil sit-ins. And I reached out to them and I said, hey, I have this idea on a photo exhibit. So, and it was really a test just to see what Black photographers were out there. And I'm a film, so I was out there filming. So the blast went out, the post went out that said looking for Black photographers who've covered the movement for a creative project. And bam, 100 DMs came, 1,500 likes. I was like, okay, I guess I'm doing this. So I work in an industry where we get things done on the fly. We have quick deadlines. I know how to work under pressure. And I quickly assembled a team of 10. I had a friend who was working with me. We had people running, we created a Gmail account, created the criteria of sending your photos in. We had installation artists come on board. I had graphic designers. Because basically in the summer, I'm not sure where you all were from, it's just like, it was kind of just open game what you wanted to do. Protests were Times Square, Washington Square Park, night, FDR, West Side Highway. You hold space. you make space. This is a time to be seen, to be known, to get your message out there. So people back me up on my vision. So I reached out to a friend who reached out to their resources. And one thing in the movement too is we all have resources. People think that we may not have monetary things in front of our face, but we may have resources, just like you all have resources. So I have resources within the industry on getting things printed. And so I put the word out through a friend. A vendor stepped up and printed these images that are 24 by 18, 30 by 18. Actually, Shawn is on call. Shawn had a huge, I had an image at the panorama that's 5 feet. I had that printed, and the only thing they charged me was the cost of the material. And so I created a GoFundMe, got it printed. The show was called Capture the Movement. 60 Black photographers, 60 images. And I had, the only criteria was you had to be Black, you had to submit one photo, and it had to be from May 2020 on. And so what got to me, what people who stayed through the process came to be 60 images. I did not know anyone. I only know maybe 2 photographers. The call was put out through Instagram. I didn't know that some of these photographers were in Chicago, Philly, Pittsburgh. I didn't know what I was getting, but I felt passionate that I've got to create something to show visually, because as we know, there's a stigma on who protesters are, anarchists burning shit, burning stuff. But I wanted to show that we are all spectrums. We are all ages, all backgrounds, babies, fathers, daughters, kids, trans, queer, non-binary, straight, heterosexual, white, Black, wherever you are from, we are protesting, we are activists. So I wanted to show that through imagery. So in a nutshell, we had to find a space. I mean, I was like, I can't have this go through all the efforts of a photo exhibit and not have a space. So a space in Brooklyn called Bed-Stuy Restoration Plaza was perfect. It was underneath a tent. We just had to figure out installation because there was nowhere to hang. There was poles. So I had, working in the business, I know people who know how to do installations. So we used kind of like a clothesline with aircraft cable, and had just an exhibit. It was the first exhibit was 1 day with music as well. And I invited the Black photographers who were there. I had at least 25 present. Shawn was on the call, who was there. And I wanted to give space. I mean, to me, it was about, I have resources to do things, and this is the movement. And one of the things in the movement that they asked is like, what are you doing to amplify the movement? And I kept thinking, like, what can I do besides be present, marching, and being on the streets? So my contribution was, I know how to produce. I know I'm a documentary filmmaker. I know how to bring things together. I have no resources. So I wanted to give space to Black photographers that I think that do not get the recognition, and wanted to amplify their voices and their work, and through their lens. This movement is about Black Lives Matter. And so I wanted to show their perspective. And it was really powerful to see the gratitude from photographers that I had no connection to give that space. So I had music. As you all work in music stations, as you know, musicians are suffering. So it's like, give space, you have space. I had a female drumming band come out. I had a Black youth marching band and dance troupe come out. And it was a beautiful community day, in a time where we're taught, don't touch, don't talk, don't be near anybody. And this was a community day that was powerful. And from that day in October, it changed me. I was like, I'm not a curator. That's not my calling, but I know how to pull things together. So I have this exhibit right now, 60 images that my goal is to take it traveling on the road and to show it. So it's powerful and it's history. So Jessica, I met at the second exhibit in Brooklyn at a small arts venue called Salon on Kingston. And another connection in the movement connected me with that space. And I was very fortunate in the pandemic still to put on an exhibit kind of inside and out. It was scaled down, 23, the Black photographers' work were showing. I had music as well. And it showed me, people still came out. It still was cold. People still came out and showed that they support the movement. So like I was saying earlier, it taught me when you need to get things done, you can put it out there, but I'm not going to wait on MoMA or the Whitney or some institution to recognize me or acknowledge me or put their stamp on what they think art is. This is current. And I felt like in this movement I was telling Black, it's like, we have to get things, we have to make it happen. And others, as we saw last year in our federal government who failed us, or we're all sitting there waiting for help, we got to help each other. We have to do the work. And so I learned that and feel very empowered by that. So that's kind of in a nutshell.
And that is perfect, because there's some things I want to touch on as far as unpacking how that model came together and how it led from one breakthrough to the next to a true community effort. And I want to start with the fact that you called it Capture the Movement. Was that a name that you had immediately when you first did your reach out to people, or were you just saying, I have a creative idea and I'm looking for photographers?
It just kind of came, like I was just literally like capture, click, take a photo, and it just like the words just kind of fell together. And I call it the Instagram is Capture the Movement NYC, but it could be Capture the Movement Chicago, Capture the Movement Milwaukee, Capture the Movement Richmond.
And do you feel that as you went through this, and the big thing that happens in a lot of people coming up with plans is an aspect of self-doubt, and also the preventative measures of, I'm not big enough to do this. And I loved how you brought up the fact that you were able to team up with about 9 or 10 people, from the get-go. And I wanted to know, how did you go about forming that team?
I had a friend who I worked with in the business that was in the movement with me on the streets. And I reached out to some people I knew that had admin skills. From the ground up, it was like, I can't be on the computer all day. So I reached out, I found someone. She brought people to the table, and I just sometimes you just put it out there. And in this time, like last year, people really wanted to do something tangible. Now's a good back, like we all running around crazy with, like our life before, as we call it. I think we all re-examined ourselves on like purpose and what can we do as self-accountability. And I think it might've been easier at that time to ask people to do things. There's always, we're too busy running around. I think just like everyone kind of checked themselves and like, well, I'm supposed to be supporting the movement, huh? So I think when I put it out there, people just fell into place. And if even through that GoFundMe, bam, that money was raised really quickly, because I think when you are your true authentic self and what you stand for, people will come. They'll show their true colors. That's what I say.
I live by that. The other thing that I really wanted to ask you, was there any, as you said, you kind of just fell into place on things, and of course we have the people that you associate with through the business that were friends, and you were like, hey, I got this idea, and it created a great springboard. A lot of people do feel as if they're kind of on their own, despite the fact that, like, as people in music, we all are surrounded by people who have that common thread of the passion. And I was wondering if you could touch on what you learned about the error that we all make in underestimating the value of our community.
Yeah, that's a good one. I work in a big machine that is driven by production and studios, like a big monster that churns you out. So I have background in 25 years of working in a big industry that is a moneymaker. So, but for me, I've always made my own independent films, and I feel like we give so much time to others for their projects, for their money making. And I feel like you have to, and yeah, last year even reinforced that you have to save time for yourself and your own personal endeavors. And I think people that I reached out to know that in me. So I don't, like, I've worked in the industry, but I mean, I could work in the industry till I retire, but I got to get something back. So I think people saw that. I think in that time, like, people saw something in me and like determination. I'm a hard worker. I do props on television and TV. So it's a grueling industry and time and energy. But I think the people that supported me know I follow through. And so I don't do things half. I do it 100%. And so I think when I put the call out, people I didn't know supported. I didn't know would give me what they gave in terms of time and support. I didn't know that in them. So I think sometimes when you put it out there, I think people want to help, but you have to ask for it. You know what I mean? You can't be afraid to tell what you want to do and your passion. And I think you'd be surprised at who wants to join the force. And also, I don't know everything. Like, people are experts in installation or better at Instagram or this or that, and I felt like people showed they want to do and get a product out or support something that's independent, that's tangible, that's real, that's current, that can help others. They do. And those who do will come to the table, and those who don't will just go away. I don't have time for you. You know, that's what I feel like, you know.
Did you have any problems in trying to, I guess, contextualize the idea or the goal of the event beyond the premise of like the most obvious lower hanging fruit emotions, such as like rage, like this? And I'm in Richmond, Virginia, and in Richmond, Virginia, we had rage and we had white guilt. Those were like the two extremes. And it was like this. It was very easy for the movement to get pigeonholed within that small space when there's so much more to it. And I was wondering, when you were constructing and presenting this idea, and as it was developing, did you have any problems trying to wrangle it outside of being caught in that space with the people that you began to work with?
Well, I think in New York City, in a place like, there was so many actions on the ground this summer. I mean, 30, 40, 50 a day. I mean, it was like just going and going. And I felt like I didn't see things visually. It was always like there was opportunity to create moments in the movement. It was an open game. So I felt like I see the videographers, I see the photographers, I see the imagery, but I felt like this is still under the umbrella of Black Lives Matter. So let me create it. There's also, there's been a movement with musicians. There's been a movement in the Black trans community. And I felt like things were starting to, we all were in the streets, but I think we all found our calling. And I felt like I have I have the tools to, not even tools is the right word. Like, I have the energy, and not everybody wants to do that, to pull it together. And I was so thankful. People were so thankful to put the call out for Black photographers. So I wouldn't say pigeonholed at all. I felt like the board was just open on youth involvement, or I don't know how to say it. Like, just, it was like create the space you want within the movement. And I saw that need. And so now I see just another trickle down effect of all these other umbrellas through the movement of music, and amplifying, and Shawn probably could talk about this, amplifying Black trans community, and under that, and mutual aid, Black history, and our women. I felt like there was plenty of space. It was like, you just got to do it and do the work.
And with the investment of time and also money and resources always being one of the main things, I do want to ask the money question. But before we get to that, I do want to ask you, when you started this, another major obstacle that in any community endeavor, even as I like throwing rap shows and stuff like that, is the fear of failure because of no clearly defined goal or definition of success. And when you started, I was wondering what was your success for this? What was your mark to be met, or was there one?
I worked so hard. I didn't tell you this, but the idea came. The call was put right before Labor Day, and the exhibit was put out on October 4th. So it was a month to like launch something in a pandemic, find a place, make it happen. I was so determined. Like once I said I was like 60 photographers sent their images to me and did not know who I was. I got them printed. The work is done. I mean, I was like, that was the hard part, I thought. I mean, you know what I mean? Like I got the images printed. I had graphic designers who I have a graphic designer that worked with me before. Someone else came on board. They went on passion and love and determination. They gave me their time. So when that was there, I was like, getting to the exhibit part was in a way the easier part because the work was done with everyone churning so hard. I gave it my all and I was exhausted. I mean, it is just grinding, but I was so determined. And being a filmmaker, like I know what it's like to do something and you got to do it. So I didn't really I knew it was going to happen. And if it was going to rain, we were good. We had a tent. And the woman who allowed the space, her energy was on point. She just wanted to make sure the space was used properly in a community atmosphere. So I didn't see failure. Like that wasn't even on the plate. I guess I was like, I hope people show up, but if you put it out there, people came. They came and they reaffirmed to me this exhibit is so necessary. And then that just changed my whole trajectory for the rest of the year.
And so there it is. The phone tried to play me. I don't play with my phone. My other thing that I do want to say, because I do want to see if anybody has any questions, but the last thing I do want to try to package, and then I'll sandwich the two questions together with you, is no, of course, the money aspect is always to people one of the most complex aspects. But I've liked the fact that you simplified, to me, it's always the true complexity, which is making a determined decision to say this is going to happen and to do it and to set a goal. So I would like to know if there was any tips you could give somebody in doing their own form of capture the movement, whether it be capturing it through music and assembling music together, or artists, or a broadcast, as we all do work in the broadcast entity space, but also what you would say were some of the tips you could give, and what would be some of the most, I would say, the things that you could simplify that were complex issues for you.
Well, I also want to acknowledge there's two photographers on the call here who are in the show. So Shawn and Sade. You might want to ask them to speak too, because Sade I met I didn't know her. She submitted her photo. I think like as artists, it's always self-determination no matter what. And how you carry yourself is how people will come to you. And that's always work. Like the more your true authentic self is what I feel like sells me. I'm not like, this is who I am. I'm not trying to pretend I'm anybody else. And also, I think when you tell people like, I'm not waiting on someone to validate me and what I'm doing, I'm doing it. You have to believe in that. And as you all with your affiliates, like it sounds like you love what you do. You have to create that space. And now in a time of digital world and your own channel, your own Instagram account, the ideology is wrong. The way we think is like we're waiting on someone to find us. It's like it's wrong. Like you have to promote yourself and find those people that resonate with you, and we have to create the movement. Don't wait for someone else to make it happen. Like, we make it happen. We, as we say, whose streets, our streets, we protect us, so I don't know if I answered your question.
That is one of the most complex issues that any artist faces every day, and I do believe that's a message that you have to internalize every single day. That's what I do, because Richmond streets, they don't love nobody, but they love me, and I did that off of every day being me. And I had a post that went up last week about the authenticity from one of my other people who helped me with his consistency, and we teamed up a lot for me to get in the rooms where I was not expected to be, whether it be in education or whether it be meeting some sort of politician or working with nonprofits. Like, these things are all very real, and I applaud the fact that you live with that determination at the very foundation of everything that you do, instead of waiting for validation to trickle down to you being empowered. Because a lot of us, as we let music speak for us, we let art and work speak for ourselves, we don't realize that we speak through that work. So I really want to, I appreciate 100%. I know the whole group appreciates you sharing this entire model. And I hope that if we can, make sure we get there's a cat in my room. Make sure that we get, out of nowhere, the information for the room. I mean, for the, like, Adam, yes, he just showed up. But make sure that we get the actual links to the exhibit that you posted up, or anything that does relate to it in this chat. But I did want to see if either one of the photographers who were present did want to say what your experience was like and what you learned from this as well, from being involved, if you feel comfortable speaking. I'm not putting you on the spot. And then, of course, and after that, if anybody has any questions, love to field those too.
Yeah, Sade, speak. Or Shawn.
Hi, everybody. This is Sade. I'm one of the photographers mentioned by Shawn. Sorry, I'm joining in a little late, but yeah, just hopping in here. I'll be honest, like, if I can just kind of talk a little bit about, like, when I first saw the call through Justice for George for Black photographers that have been covering the movement. And I thought I was like, oh, this is great that we are highlighting specifically Black photographers. And I reached out with skepticism, because I was like, well, who's really behind this? Like, why does this person want to do a show for Black photographers? What are they going to be asking for? And that skepticism came from, like, having encountered, like, a lot of our work. I mean, our work is always getting stolen, right? But a lot of photos were taken without permission last year, taken without the permission of Black photographers. So I was skeptical initially. And for me, like, the buy-in literally came because Shawn was responsive through email. She was very transparent that, this was still a work in progress. She was still figuring things out. And for me, I was like, okay, this person is responsive. They are being transparent about where they're at with this process. But overall, I thought it was awesome that Shawn, there was no ask for money. There was no, like, catch to, like, being a part of this exhibit. And I think, if I can, speaking for myself, at least, I think at the moment that you decided to launch this show, Shawn, it was so crucial, because we were coming off the heels of having, like, at least myself being on the streets, like, nonstop, going through all these different emotions. And it felt like it was a way to celebrate the work that we had done thus far last year, after going through, like, this up and down wave of emotions and intense emotions covering the movement. And being in that initial show at Restoration Plaza in Brooklyn, it was moving for me to see the work of other photographers as well, like, across the country, and feel the energy through the photos. So, I will say it over and over again, like, Shawn, like, hats off to you, much appreciated for, like, standing up for us, for creating this platform, for kind of taking on that honor and responsibility of highlighting our work. Like, I think I cannot thank you enough for that opportunity.
Thank you. Shawn, you want to say something? I mean, no pressure, Shawn.
No pressure. Definite pressure.
I'm just saying.
Never on the spot. Sorry. Yeah, no, it was it really was a beautiful experience. And I would say I second exactly, what Sade is saying, in that, it was really wonderful, Shawn, to put the project together, and for us all to be able to like congregate and meet, because you know when you're at Actions, your head is generally on a swivel. You're not really being that social. You're not, you know, really engaging with people that much, especially if you get there late or if you get there on the fly. Like if you're tracking it through Instagram stories or whatever, you're running up and you're doing your work. You know, you're really focused on the imagery and making sure that the, you know, the action is preserved. So to have a chance to, you know, sort of not be in that headspace and appreciate the work of others and be able to meet and, you know, discuss what it is to try to create in that sort of environment was a really great opportunity. And I did get to, you know, finally put faces to names with a lot of the photographers that I've been elbow to elbow with throughout, you know, months of Actions, you know, from the end of May where it started. My first day out was actually in June, shooting, and you know it was nonstop for months. You know, I mean, I only stopped. I didn't stop going wholesale, but I had to take a break from going to Actions because I started a separate project and taking portraits of protesters. So you know, and like you know, I was out of it for a little bit, but still like, you know, in it every day, like on Instagram, following stories, and you know, when people were arrested, like making calls from jail in between retouching photos and all that stuff. So you know, it's hard to, you never really like, once you're sort of in it, you don't separate yourself, or have like a lot of opportunities to relax. And like that day was just, it felt celebratory, especially at Restoration Plaza. It felt like a day to finally sort of like let, you know, your guard down a little bit and just appreciate the, you know, the positive and powerful parts of being in this movement, as opposed to like the constant sort of, you know, anger and purpose and seriousness of what it is that we are attempting to do. So that was really what I think I appreciated the most.
Thanks.
Well, I want to just say thank you guys to everybody who hopped on the call today. I don't know. I know we usually wrap at 3, so if you have to dip, don't feel any certain way. It's fine. A couple things I just want to like bring together that like I heard Shawn and Black talking about, which I thought were like especially powerful and like relevant to us, is like the importance of actually reaching out and connecting to the movement, whatever movement it may be that's happening in your locality. You hear the appreciation and the connection that's made just from reaching out and like trying to like bring these two worlds, or bring your world together and like acknowledge what's going on out there. The importance of not being just spoon-fed what you're seeing by other outlets, you know, trying to find your own story. And something that Shawn said, which I feel like we keep, you know, of course we keep talking about, holding space and making space, the importance of like finding the time and the place to tell these stories within whatever aspect of your station, digitally, on air, wherever, that you can find a place to fit them in. And, you know, over and over again, we hear people talking about the response they got after they put the call out. Like people they didn't know were in their communities, people they didn't know were doing work that's relevant to their work. Like, as Shawn said, don't wait for it to happen to you. Make your own movement, make your own, you know, don't wait for something to kind of fall into your lap. And I just, you know, thanks again to everybody for the contributions today. Shawn, anything you want to say before we wrap up? Black?
Yeah, I don't mean to jump on. Well, so I could use you all's help because I proved to myself and to the community that the photo exhibit is necessary and timely. And when I went through the efforts to get it printed, blah, 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 it's a package exhibit that can be anywhere. So I'm really looking for places to show it. I just need a place. So wherever it is, and not necessarily in cities that have this big movement, and maybe it's a city that needs exposure or wants to be in touch with something that happened across the country. So I could use your help on putting the word out. There's an exhibit, it's 60 Black photographers, 60 images. I'm putting a website together because right now the only place you can find information is on Instagram, which I know is not great for everyone. But I just would like to say that. So thank you.
And Shawn's email is in the chat also, you guys, if you're trying to connect with her directly. I saw you pop that in there.
And I just want to say that, again, thank you, Shawn, and to everybody who called in today. The reason why, to me, this was such an awesome opportunity is because it shows how connected the different mediums are, despite the fact that we focus in our audio realm and photography is a video, video or just a still framed visual realm. The emotions contained within both mediums and the message expressed is the same. And this was a great opportunity to take a model that worked for somebody in one way and through that venue and vehicle, and to see how it bled immediately into musicianship and into different artists and led to so many revelations of identity and empowerment. And the fact that it was all rooted in just an idea, determination, and deciding to not keep it to yourself. There's nothing wrong with having an idea and offering it to somebody and seeing what happens. The only failure that can ever happen is when you sit in silence and sit on your hands and then feel disappointed because somebody didn't give you what you were expecting because you already had it in the first place. Mm-hmm. So thank you so much, Shawn, and thank you, Jess, for this opportunity to moderate this, and thank you, everybody, for tuning in as well. It's amazing.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you guys for dialing in, and come back next week, same time, 2 p.m. Bruce and Bruce will be here, many Bruces, and we'll be talking about their 2 specials, and we'll have a bunch of new content stuff to go over too. All right. Thank you guys for everything.
Thank you. May the force be with you all.
Yes.
Everybody.
Thank
Peace.
you.